Okay, hi, welcome back to Listening with Dr. Long. I'm your host, Dr. Christie Long, and thank you for being here for today's episode. I'm really excited for you to meet our guest. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a minute. First of all, I want to say huge thanks to everyone who has been listening to the podcast. I've gotten so many great comments, so many reach outs, phone calls, texts. Thank you so much for being interested in hearing the stories of veterinary medicine. I really, really appreciate it. I even heard from one of our clinics. I was in our Berkeley clinic yesterday and they were playing it in the treatment room. So I love that idea. And I hope that other veterinary teams also get enjoyment out of hearing the stories from our profession. So with that, let's kick off today's episode. I am very excited about today's guest. And much like my last guest or two guests ago, when we conceived of doing the podcast, she was one of the people that I had already started thinking, like, I really want to get this doctor on and in front of our audience. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Dr. Jeanine Au. Dr. Au and I go back, I cannot believe it, Jeanine, but I'm going to say these words, more than 20 years. It doesn't,
I know, it's crazy.
It doesn't even seem possible, but we met in 2003 when we were both at Colorado State University in vet school. When I think back, Jeanine, I don't remember the exact moment that we met, but I remember knowing about you and meeting you and thinking, she is just one of the coolest chicks I've ever been around. Like, you're a surfer. You're one of those women who always has lots of male friends, which I've always been the same way. And, you know, I think we all just sort of gravitated together into a group. So I want to talk about vet school today. I want to talk about what you've been doing in your career. And I have some bigger topics and bigger discussions around some of the key issues in veterinary medicine. But I hope you'll just kick it off by telling us about your path to our profession, to veterinary medicine. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, you know, as far as when we first met, I have such a vivid memory of when I first met you. I was driving down College Avenue, I think going to one of the coffee shops for the weekend. And I looked over and I see this person with a backpack with a small child in it, just hoofing it down with purpose. I think you had flyers in your hand. You were, maybe it was some sort of fundraiser or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this woman. Like, she is just embarking on a second career, raising a kid at the same time, like, major badass. We are going to be friends. That's what I was thinking.
That was our 5K run that we did, that we created. That still happens in Fort Collins.
Still goes.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, I completely remember that. And I think, you know, you and I are so similar. Like you were saying, I think we're both super vocal. We have no problem speaking our mind. We ask the questions, we challenge the norms, you know, but also we are pretty lighthearted and just kind of find the joy and humor wherever we can. So yeah, I knew we were going to hit it off immediately.
I love that. Yeah. Talk about how you got there. I think you went to undergraduate at CSU, if I'm remembering correctly, but you know, growing up, did you want to be a veterinarian? How did that unfold for you?
Yeah, always. I was one of those kind of boring kids that 4 years old, I said, I want to be a veterinarian. Like, wow. It was my pathway from the very beginning. I worked on an equine ranch in Hawaii. So at an early age, you know, I was feeding horses and caring for them and training and, you know, just doing everything to help manage a ranch. I originally wanted to do equine work, but didn't kind of make that switch until I was in vet school. But
you wanted to be an equine veterinarian, you thought?
Equine veterinarian, yeah. Even specifically an equine surgeon. Not quite sure exactly why, but, you know, and I knew about Colorado State. I had some friends and I had a brother-in-law who was a veterinarian, at school there. So I was super familiar with the program. I only applied to CSU. I didn't apply anywhere else. And thankfully I got in. Yeah. And I went as an undergraduate as a pre-vet student.
Awesome.
Um,
And being
yes,
from Hawaii, because you grew up in Hawaii, as we've said, Hawaii not having its own vet school, right? I believe Hawaii and Colorado had a special agreement that allowed you to, I think, come to Colorado and pay in-state tuition, if I'm not mistaken.
correct. It was the witchy, it might be
Yeah,
called the Wui now. I didn't take that path. I actually applied to be a Colorado resident
gotcha.
around my fourth year there because I knew I really couldn't afford out of state or even a discounted tuition. So I applied. I had been living there for several years, spending summers there. I had jobs. So um, Colorado doesn't like to give out residencies very easily, but I did manage to get one. So I applied as an in state student.
Got it. I did the same thing. I lived there for a year, and you're right. I mean, for those listening who aren't necessarily in the veterinary field, when you and I went to vet school, these many years ago, there were like, I think, 28 veterinary schools, if I'm remembering, in the U.S. And we are about to see over the next 3 to 5 years, 10 more schools come online. So, the chances of getting into vet school are going to increase probably for those who want to be veterinarians, which is good in a lot of ways. It was really hard to get in. And I remember the whole culture at CSU of all the undergraduates who wanted to get into vet school, and it was quite competitive. Everyone is trying to have different experiences, right? That would like stack their resume, so to speak, to get into vet school. So it was certainly a huge achievement to get in. I know you probably felt the same way I did.
Yeah, I was super grateful that I got in on the first try. My contingency plan was being a ski bum in Telluride.
Not a bad plan at all. I mean, you could do that for a while and then eventually get back to vet school. I wanted to talk a minute because I talk to a lot of veterinarians, obviously, in what I do, and I'm surprised at the number of times I hear people say, oh, vet school was awful, or, it was, I was so glad when vet school was over. I was so glad to get out of vet school. And I loved vet school. Like I
Agree.
thought,
I do it again. It was amazing.
Totally sign me up, right? Like we had, and it's funny, I was back at CSU a couple weeks ago. Jane Shaw retired, who was one of our professors. And somebody said, yeah, the class of 2007, that was a special class. Talk about like, how our group came together, and like, I don't know if you have any insight or have given any thought to what made us so special.
Yeah. So when I was in between my fourth and fifth year, I believe, of undergraduate, and I had been trying to gain those experiences, get vet hours to apply, and I got a job as an assistant in Fort Collins, making $6 an hour.
Great. Yeah.
Big money.
Yeah.
But funny enough, the vet that I worked for actually had been on the admissions board for, I think, 10 years. She was no longer, but she was super insightful. I took the position of a guy who then was going to vet school. So he was 2 years ahead of me. We actually dated. And so I had kind of gotten thrown into the culture. I went to their events and I met his friends and that sort of thing. And he was like, our class is the best class. I mean, great people. And he said that the physicians at the VTH say we're the best class, and just went on and on and on. And I said, okay, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then came our class. And
Yeah.
he even admitted, he goes, wow, like you guys really are a tight-knit group. And I don't know if this is still the case, but supposedly the good class alternates every other year.
Yeah. Clearly there's science at play there. That's got to be a fact.
Yeah. So, at least we were the every other, so we had it going for us. But I think there were like 134 people in our class, right? And the first year of school, I mean, you're spending 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. together in a room, taking lunch breaks together. We had those cubes that you were based on your last name, right? So I think initially, a lot of us really bonded with our cube mates who was sitting next to us. You took tests in there together.
Right.
You were
Studied
lab
together.
partners
Yeah.
together. Yes. And I had an amazing cubicle. You did too, right? Christine Hardy, was she next to you?
Cam was next to me and David Laurie, obviously Long Laurie, that's how it went. But yes, we all bonded. They stuck us in there and said, be friends and learn together, basically. And, it's probably not unlike the military. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so, you're kind of thrown into that. And then, I mean, we bonded so easily, during lunch break, we'd be out on the playground essentially burning steam, and we went to coffee shops together on the weekends, and we had wine parties. And I think you mentioned in the first podcast that as a group we're oversharers.
Yes.
I totally agree. I mean, you just met people and you spilled out everything, and you were like, are you cool with that? Are we connecting? And it just kind of went from there. Brian Marcioni was actually the first person I met. And I went outside between, I don't know, the first or second lecture. And I see this kid, he's got jeans on and rainbow leather slippers and his dirty blonde hair. And I was like, okay, I think we'd be friends. So just went over there and we exchanged names, and he says, I'm from California. Where are you from? I said, Hawaii. And his next sentence was, do you surf?
I mean, I was just going to say, you're both huge surfers, of course. And I bet Brian had on his corduroy Miller hat too, if I can remember.
Brian, my gosh. Yes,
Brian,
100%.
one of the many specialists from our class. I was counting before we started talking today. We had at least 15 people who went on to specialize. Our class was the first class to do the combined DVM MBA program. So I think there were 6 people who were getting their MBA while they were becoming a veterinarian. I mean, let's just make it harder. Why don't we? So a really special bunch of people. So I always tell students, if they're struggling in vet school or having a hard time, like making it all, kind of work for them, like maybe it's a little bit flippant to say, but like enjoy it, because it's going to go by so fast. And these are the people who you're going to form this is your network, right? This is where you start your professional network, not just your fellow students, but also your fellow professors. I'm curious, like, do you reach out to some of our classmates ever with questions or like to try to get something done? Yeah.
100%. And we have, we probably should use it more. Like, we have that Facebook group. So sometimes I'll message on there. I have an amazing client that's moving to Minnesota. Like, are you there? Can I refer you? A lot of stuff gets sent to me. Yeah. I mean, I still network. You're always networking when you don't think you are. I mean, I'm networking at Trader Joe's. Like I try not to wear my scrubs out and about because inevitably, right, you're a veterinarian and then people are chasing you down the aisles.
For you. Yeah.
My gosh. Like it has happened everywhere. I've been at a physical therapy appointment and they go, I have to confess, I actually called you about my dog. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I remember.
I have too been at a doctor's appointment and had a human doctor, stop what they were doing, whatever they were doing, and say, but, do you mind if I just ask you about my dog? Yeah, it's, I never mind. I always welcome those questions for the most part, but please take my advice if I give it to you for free. Yeah, I would like for you to take my advice.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important to network early, join the clubs, go to the workshops.
Get to know your professors, right? Also, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I even signed up, I think it was my 3rd or 4th year. I went with Dr. Egger to Jackson Hole.
Eric
Road
Egger.
tripped out there to do, to do surgical procedures. I said, okay, why not? So, I mean, and even with your clients, even the patients that you're seeing as students, I mean, you never know who their owners are, how they can help you down the road. Right. I will say, like, my first kind of pay it forward happened when during the internship scramble. I applied for internships at 3 super competitive places, 2 out here in Los Angeles, Wheat Ridge and Denver. And I didn't match. And it was super devastating. That's the track I wanted to go. And I think I was maybe on my CCU rotation or had just finished. And somehow Dr. Hackett got wind of it, that I didn't match anywhere. Immediately made a phone call to VCA West LA. And the next thing I knew, I was offered a position to come here.
I don't think I ever heard that story. I mean, obviously I knew you did your internship at VCA West LA, but I did not know that's how it went down. And obviously if you had just kind of tried to shrink away while you're on that rotation and not get to know Hackett, that would have never happened. And, know, who knows? You might not have ever met your husband, Jeanine, which we can certainly segue into your time at VCA West LA because it was monumental for a lot of reasons. But talk about your internship and then your progression into general practice there.
Yeah. So, vet school and my time in Colorado was the best 4 years of my life. And it really prepared me. I think I probably could have went straight into private practice, but, it was highly recommended to do an internship. And I'm extremely happy I did, and extremely happy with my time at VCA. The caseload we saw there, I probably worked 80 hours a week. They equated it to 5 years in practice. And I think they're spot on. I would work relief shifts after with people who went straight into practice. And, I could see the difference in confidence and knowledge and just how to work at cases. I mean, I really was very highly trained at West LA. So I'm super grateful.
I actually have a memory because it took me like 3 months to get a job after vet school. We graduated in 2007. The economy was starting to tank. I wanted a job in Colorado, and everybody wanted a job in Colorado. But I remember you posted on Facebook, I just unblocked my first cat. And I was like, I am literally withering away here while Jeanine is already saving lives. So thank you for putting that pressure on me. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, it was, and I also got really lucky. I had a great intern class. 2 people, Layla Afshar and Rensen Shigemoto. So 2 of our classmates also had internships there. So that was nice to know some people. I lived with one of my intern mates Dr. Karen Eiler, who I still am very close with. And still in touch with all of those people. But it was a hard year. I remember during orientation, we got sat in this room, and my intern director and Dave Bruett, the medical director, came in. And if you know Dr. Bruett, he doesn't have much of a filter. But he came in and he just looked at all of us, and he was like, the quicker you realize you will not have a life outside of these doors, the better off you are. And he said, raise your hand if anyone here is in a relationship. He said, none of you will be in one when you're done.
Oh my God. This is probably the number one reason I didn't do an internship, because of that very fact. So, wow.
Yeah.
Well,
and it was true. People that were in relationships did not survive them during the internship. You had to give it your all. Sure.
The learning, like you said, 5 years collapsed into 1 year, but you were going for it for sure.
Yeah. So, at the end of the year, Dr. Bruett offered me a position there as a general practitioner, which I happily accepted.
Yeah. And you stayed on how long at West LA?
5 years.
5 years. Wow.
Yep. I stayed on, during my last year is when they bought a 55,000 square foot building next door. And so, and they had been building it over a year. We all were involved in the plans. It's a beautiful facility, but I kind of knew that move was also going to be kind of when I was ready to move to something different.
Yeah. I mean, VCA West LA at one point was the largest, private, especially emergency hospital west of the Mississippi, I'm pretty sure. And it may still occupy that position. I don't know, but just the ability to learn there and grow with those specialists and those doctors must have been tremendous. I do want you to tell about, meeting Dr. Evil while you were practicing at West LA, because that's a great story. I mean, that's a life-changing moment thanks to veterinary medicine.
It is. So my intern mate, Dr. Jen Hall, who is actually still at
She's
VCA.
a criticalist.
Yeah, she's a criticalist there. Her fiance at the time, they lived next door to a guy, and he said, I think Jeanine would really hit it off with him. And Jen said, no, I don't know. That's not her type. So they had a barbecue and they invited both of us there.
Classic move.
Yes, yep. Exactly. Yeah. And, we were all just kind of hanging out. And I think maybe there was some beer pong or flip cup involved. Mm-hmm. And there's this little Chihuahua, 5-pound Applehead Chihuahua, just running around the backyard intact, urinating on everything, nipping at ankles, barking like crazy. And I was like, whose dog is that? And this person goes, mine. I said, here's my card. Come bring him to me. I need to neuter him.
And that was Tommy. And Dr.
Yeah. And that was Tommy. Yep. So he shows up about a week later. I neuter him. He bites me on recovery.
I mean, hold on a minute. How did Dr. Evil get to be 5? And then you show up on the scene, pass out your card, and immediately this guy's like, I'm taking my dog. This girl's going to, it's going to neuter him for me. Like immediately he changes his mind. Clearly he had already fallen in love. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at pickup, I'm going over the instructions and he says, would you like to go to dinner?
Smooth, very smooth. Great story. Okay. 2 kids later. And I believe Tommy now works in your business with you, right?
He does. He does.
Excellent segue to your time as you were kind of breaking free at West LA. I think, Jeanine, just one of the things I've admired so much about you is you have put together a professional life that not only emphasizes your strengths and the things you enjoy doing, but you give back a lot also. So talk to me about how it all evolved, and just, tell our audience, what are the things that you're involved in?
So people always said, I don't know if it's working for corporate, working at a practice, working specifically at West LA, but we called it kind of the 5-year bubble. And I saw a lot of other general practitioners hit that kind of wall almost at 5 years where they loved what they did, they were happy, but they wanted more. And I hit that wall as well. And I think the movement to the new building and, I'm a general practitioner to the core. I love being with the people. I just like that interaction. And when the building, the bigger building came about, a lot of that got lost. And it was such a huge building. I literally would go days without seeing colleagues, and we weren't bouncing ideas off of each other, just chit-chatting in the hallways. So a lot of that stuff got lost. And I said, I need to do my own thing. So I started looking at smaller hospitals with potential buy-in options and that sort of thing. I did work at a hospital for about a year in hopes that was the direction it was going, and it didn't. And so I immediately was like, okay, I'm going to do my own thing. I think I chose mobile for a lot of reasons. Definitely I was a little scared. I was like, okay, am I gonna buy a building? Am I gonna start a practice from ground up? Am I gonna buy in? So it was a way for me to have my own space, but not necessarily invest a lot of money into it, not invest a lot of time in that. I didn't have a lot of overhead, right? So if this didn't work out, it would be okay. I had no idea that it would take off the way it did. Um, when I left the hospital that I was at, I got pregnant.
Nice
I
timing.
closed on a, yeah, I
Yeah.
closed on a house, and I was like, this is the worst time for me to no longer have a set income. But you know what? I'm going to do it. I was unhappy. I didn't like going to work anymore. I needed a change. So I walked into Dave Bruett's office, and he was extremely understanding. He said, of course, I don't want to lose you, but I get it. He said, you will always have a position here if you want to come back, which was really nice. I had, if this didn't work out, I had something to go
You
to.
had that safety net, right? Which, like, this is a
Exactly.
story of bravery, if nothing else. But, like, that I think was probably just an integral thing to have in place to know that, you can go out and try this. And by the way, many people have tried to make mobile businesses work in LA, mobile veterinary businesses, and it is hard. It is a huge metropolitan area. There's tons of
Yeah.
traffic. So, like, it took a lot
Yeah.
of guts for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I had no formal training in business
Yeah.
startup. I did not do the combined program. I learned on the go, and there's not a lot of information. I know we had that class our last year that kind of touched
Yeah.
on contracts and all that stuff, but the mobile world was definitely a gray area. There's not a lot of information on it. The rules and regulations of how you operate were unclear, still to this day.
Right.
So, I basically just like got on LegalZoom and started an S Corp and decided on a business name, opened a checking account, and I was like, okay, here we
Since I'm
go.
in business, let me just get my MWI account set up and I'll be on my way.
Literally, that's literally, I got a vendor account. I mean, I didn't have a website. I didn't even have a business card. I didn't even have a phone. I was using my personal phone, but I had a strong clientele list of people that started with me day one, and they were like, we will follow you anywhere. So
Are these people that you met in the real world in physical practice who
yeah,
you
yep,
formed relationships with? Got it.
yeah. And I was lucky too that my technician and best friend said, I'm going to take this leap with you too. So that was really great to have that support. And I knew that I could do it. So, but we were immediately very busy, and it just grew, and I never advertised. It was all word of mouth, which is nice because good people refer good people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you now have a fairly small group of clients, right? In terms of you have your business where you're going out and you're seeing pets who need well pet care or need sick pet care. That is a pretty small group of clients, right? And I
Yeah.
say several of them are quite high end clients and people that people would have heard of, but we're not going to talk about that. But, like, I think one of the things I'd love to know from you, one of the things we constantly fight in veterinary medicine is getting people to say yes, to spend the money that they need to spend for their pet. And so there's almost this perception that's like, if I had, clients who had no restrictions on how they spend, my life would be so much easier. But I wonder if you have a perspective on that from a standpoint of, like, you still have to really make sure that you're educating people, right, and communicating regardless of their ability to pay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my client list varied quite a bit. I mean, people seek mobile medicine for many reasons. And I had clients that really wanted to stay with me, but actually I didn't even charge that much when I started. I was about on pace with going to a clinic.
Wow.
Because I wanted to be able to keep my clients, and at the time, like, it is a very concierge thing, but I didn't treat it that way. I still feel that everybody is entitled to good veterinary care. So my pricing was very fair. And I had anything from people who didn't have cars. They couldn't physically bring their
Oh,
pets
wow.
in, to, these corporate people. I didn't even ever meet them. They literally gave me codes to enter their house and examine their dog.
Wow.
Single moms who were juggling other things, so I had a mix for sure. And then I did slowly start gaining some bigger clientele. It really kind of just happened by chance. The first big client that I got was sent to me from the criticalist at VCA, not Dr. Hall, another one. And he got a call from Angel Memorial.
In
I
Boston.
have somebody, yes,
Oh my God.
all the way down. I have a client that is in LA, is getting a new puppy. They want a new veterinarian, and it just kind of trickled down. And they thought of me.
Back to
We
that
had
network. Back to the network, right?
exactly,
Exactly.
exactly. And we had no idea. We knew it was probably somebody because it was just coming down. In fact, it was his bodyguard who essentially called me.
Yeah. Wow.
So I had no idea what I was getting into. I just had this new puppy paperwork, and I got an address and a time to show up. And my tech and I pull up to a recording studio, and I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And we get shuttled into one of the rooms, and a dog comes in, and we do our first physical and, give the vaccines, and I'm finished. And while we're sitting in there, I start hearing the music, and I hear somebody sing, and I go, oh,
that was
okay.
your first clue of who it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, now I know where I am. And yeah, that was 12 years ago, and
Very cool.
have seen them through various pets. So yeah, that was exciting. But caring for A-list clients, I guess you'll say. I mean, to be honest, they're regular people. I mean,
Yeah.
I have conversations about our kids, schools, they have similar problems to we do.
It's good to be reminded of that, for sure.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
money doesn't solve every problem. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I do get the only in LA moments, I would say. One of my other kind of bigger clients, they called me from their private jet because their dog had been running down the aisle and pulled a dew claw off.
Oh,
And
I'll tell you the number of times that's happened to me and my dog. Yeah.
Yeah. So they said, as soon as we landed LAX, we're driving. They showed up at my house for me to bandage this paw because I had just had my second kiddo and was literally in bed recovering. I said, okay, you got to come to me. And sure enough, a Escalade shows up to my house, and
wow.
I got out. So I get a lot of those, which I just kind of have to giggle about.
That's funny. Yeah. You're, mobile on both ends, right? I come to you, you come to me, whatever it takes. Yeah. To get care. That's awesome. You've also, I remember you've told me stories in the past about like driving onto the tarmac, I think at LAX, and writing health certificates for people. And like, I just want to take a minute to set this up because health certificates, somebody will probably comment on this, on some platform and call me wrong on this, but I believe I can say they are the worst part of veterinary medicine. No one likes writing. It's basically the documentation to get an animal from point A to point B, usually on a plane and usually outside of the country. And we actually just quit doing them at Modern Animal a couple of years ago because, they take a lot of time. If you get them wrong, it is like, it is just so hard to correct the problem. You have to call the USDA, which, that's the government, and that's never easy. So, we refer them out. So talk about like how you've come to peace with the travel document world and really kind of made it a thriving part of your practice that you do.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody likes to do that. It's like the IRS mixed with going to the DMV, I would say. But I'm really good at it. I don't know why. I think it's the attention to detail. I've done enough of them. When I was at VCA, they all came to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, it if you're good at it, it's certainly a good part of your business to do. It is funny though, because a lot of these A-list clients are constantly flying private jets into unknown places. And so I did one call at, I think it was the Beverly Hills Hotel, and they were flying, where were they flying? It wasn't Tahiti. It was an island, and I WhatsApped with their embassy and their island veterinarian, and they actually had no idea. They didn't even have any protocols in place.
They didn't know how to import a dog.
They did not.
Wow.
They did not. So we kind of created it at that time. I did successfully get the dog in and out, but yeah, I thought that was pretty amusing.
Wow.
But now I do a lot of import and export through a company outside of LAX, basically. And they prepare all of the paperwork. I have to make sure everything is in order, but they do all of that back end stuff, tell me what I need to do. Yeah, and they have it down to a T. They are constantly receiving and shipping animals all over the world. I mean, in a given day, I could send 10 pets to Australia.
Wow. And you're just showing up and doing the physical exams and signing off on the paperwork, and off they go. Yeah.
Exactly.
You've built quite a little niche for yourself there. And you know what? You can have it. Honestly, it's yours. Gifting that to you.
I know. It's kind of funny. Like, if you look at all these little things that I dabble in, it is somewhat all the things that most veterinarians don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, the amazing thing about you is you've crafted your life around this. Like I said earlier, Tommy's now working with you, doing your scheduling for you. You have your kids who are in elementary school. Please tell me that Kai's not out of elementary school yet. I'm going to feel really old. Okay, good. And you've made that work, right? Like, you know, talk about like some of the decision. If you ever had to make a decision, like, and put your family first when you knew that a client really needed you, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, it took me a while to get to that place, and ultimately kind of why my practice has transitioned the way it did. I started doing mobile stuff around 2011 and then fully incorporated in 2014. And I mean, these were my babies. I mean, I got so close with my clients. I mean, I went to weddings and baby showers, and, you know, I gave everything to them. I would get phone calls. They would be, you know, at a grocery store and FaceTiming, like, what dog food should I buy, or that sort of thing. And
that is like next level concierge, right?
Oh yeah. I was available anytime, all the time. Emails, texts. I mean, I rarely went on vacation because I didn't have a backup plan. You know, and that was kind of the service that I gave. When I had my kids, it became difficult to balance. You know, my clients were so great though. I have photos of examining dogs with, you know, my kids strapped onto the back, or, you know, them feeding them from their high chair, because I would have pets that stayed with me sometimes, overnight, recovering from a spay surgery. So I loved what I did. I gave it my all. As my family's needs started to grow, I needed to kind of back away a bit. And the timing kind of worked out well, because when I started, most of the pets were young, new puppies. And so it just so happened that when I said I need to step back, they were 12, 13, 14. Many of them moved away. Many of them I helped with end of life care. So I only really had to tell a handful, hey, like I'm going to need, and I gave them probably a year
And you just said
to,
not taking any new clients during this time, right?
yes, I'm
Yeah.
not taking any new clients. I kept all the seniors. I said, I am not going to force you to find a new provider. Your dog is 14. Like, I'm going to see this out to the end.
Yeah.
So now I have maybe 12 patients right now left.
Got it.
Yeah, that I
And
do
yeah,
house calls
so
for.
that's a natural transition point to where you are now, which is, I don't know, a large percentage, I'm guessing, of your practice is in-home euthanasia. Gold Coast,
Yeah.
Gold Coast Mobile Veterinary Services, in case I haven't said it, is the name of your business. And, we refer to your business. You provide an incredible service for end of life in the home setting. I'm just so in awe of people who do this all the time, because when I practiced, euthanasia was something that I kind of did and compartmentalized in the day. And then, my next 7 or 8 patients were healthy animals, young animals. And that euthanasia, it was usually for a client that I'd been seeing for a long time. I knew them. I knew the history of the disease. And I felt, I won't say good, right? But I felt the knowledge that this was the right point. You're coming into homes, you don't typically know these people at all, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear just in general from you how that feels, but specifically I want to ask you, how do you walk in and start that relationship from nothing and make it a meaningful experience for all the people involved?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. I would say end of life is something that I've been comfortable with, even as a technician. When I worked in Fort Collins, the doctor I worked for seemed to immediately see that in me. I don't know what, but she would make me assist in every end of life. I could be in the back room,
Right.
folding surgical packs, and she's like, you need to come out here right now. Like I'm like, there's 3 people here, and she said, no, you have to be with me.
Gosh.
So I had a lot of experience early on with it. It was great at CSU. We also had probably more experience than others with the Argus Institute and helping people through that. So it's just kind of something I'm naturally good at. Sounds weird to say. I also think I'm really good at reading people. Probably that came from the food service industry, truthfully. I don't know. I'd say I'm good at reading people, and I'm really good at reading animals. And so when people reach out to us, there are almost always referrals from Modern Animal, from other hospitals. Some people just Google us, Yelp, whatever it may be. Generally, I'd say 75% of my appointments don't know me at all. They don't know me. They didn't even call. We have an online scheduler. They went to my website and they booked an appointment. They don't even want to have a conversation. They're moving forward. And then I'd say the 25% call, they talk to Tommy, they go over everything. They get a sense for us as a practice. The second, they do fill out a form. So, I know, why am I going there? Because I need to make sure that this is a justified decision. So I have an idea of where they're at, what kind of dog is it? How long have they had an issue? But the second they open the door, I don't know, I can immediately say, okay, this is how this is going to go. You are a person who this is going to be a silent visit. You really don't want to talk about anything. You grieve quietly. Sometimes people are open about it. They say, thank you so much for being here. I want to make this honestly as quick as possible. I say, okay. Others, they want to tell their story. They want to, tell me about the life of their pet. And I love that. I'm willing to sit there and listen and be in that circle and that safe space and hear everything. Another thing again is being able to read the pets. Some Most people don't tell you my pet bites, or they don't like to be touched on their head. They allow you to figure that out for yourself. But they're telling you what they like, what they don't like. Just read the room. And so I can tell, this dog doesn't want to be approached, this dog wants to be held. Yeah. And I have the ability to do that very quickly within the first few minutes. And maybe I'm reading the situation wrong, but I don't think so. I mean, the visits tend to go very peacefully, predictable, and everybody seems happy with the way things go. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible service, and I think every pet deserves to go in the loving comfort of their family and their home. And that's just an incredible gift that you can give to people. How do you, I wonder, like, you are, the word that describes you in all of these things is an entrepreneur, right? And I know you said early on that you didn't know anything about business, but you've clearly built a business, and we talked about how it works with your family and your lifestyle. Like, how do you coach or mentor? Because I know I had you speak with one of our relief doctors who was interested in building a mobile practice. Like, what's your number one piece of advice for someone who is wanting to innovate in veterinary medicine or do something entrepreneurial?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's kind of tough because like you mentioned, there have been a lot of people who have tried to do a mobile practice here in Los Angeles, and have been unsuccessful for whatever reason. There's even some mobile practices, 3 that I could think of, 2 where they're no longer practicing veterinary medicine, and another who went back to brick and mortar.
Really?
I don't know the details behind that, but mobile medicine was not for them. I don't know. For me, it fit everything that I needed. I wanted the flexibility. I wanted to make decisions for myself. I wouldn't say it's easier by any means. I mean, I work a lot. I work really long days. But when you're building something for yourself, and watching it grow and getting immediate gratification, that's what pushes you forward.
I love that. And I think in these days of consolidation of practices, right, we have big veterinary companies buying so many brick and mortar practices, it can be really hard for veterinarians to own their own practice. And I think mobile is such an interesting alternative because, the startup costs are minimal. But you do have, I mean, I think you gave your all to it for so long in building your business. And I think that's probably why you've been so successful. So I'm so in awe of your journey, Jeanine. You're one of my personal heroes. I want to thank you again so much for your time as an entrepreneur. It is your time. So I appreciate it so much. I want to ask you one final question. After all this time, these 18 years, Dr. Au, that we have been veterinarians, how do you find your joy? Where do you find joy?
Like I mentioned, I always wanted to be a veterinarian. That has never changed. And it's a hard career path. People that are talking about going into it now, I'm like, oh, don't take that decision lightly. But knowing everything I know and going where I've gone, I would have done it all over again. Truly. I mean, it's just every day for me is interesting, exciting, fulfilling, gratifying. So I really do still every day like what I do. I love being a veterinarian. Um, Outside of work, where do I find my joy? Spending time with my family, surfing,
Surfing, yeah.
hiking, enjoying the outdoors, traveling, definitely doing a little more traveling now, which is great. Um, yeah, and I've been doing more kind of community outreach stuff, working with rescues in Los Angeles. That's definitely a different side of things, but much needed. And that's extremely rewarding, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt. I'll just quickly end with the story of the 30 research beagles that came in on a pallet that you actually sent me that video of them walking on grass for the first time because they've spent their lives in kennels. And my husband, Wiley, said, oh, I saw this today. So it's gone viral. But, if you could just quick tell that story about the story of those dogs, it's truly amazing.
Yeah. So, one of my many different things that I do, I work for the CDC in the morning, importing dogs from all over the world. It's a program they started in August. And any dog coming in from a high-risk rabies country needs to be cleared, make sure that they're healthy, they're vaccinated, all their paperwork is in line. So, we get pets, people moving, sometimes just traveling back and forth. And then a big percentage is rescues that are bringing in dogs, dogs saved from the meat market in China. We get a lot of golden retrievers from China. And then, this particular case, this is the Beagle Freedom Project. And we're actually going to bring in about 60 dogs. There's another shipment that's in the works in the next month or two. We had to split it up. But, they said, okay, we want to bring in 30 dogs, and everybody was involved. The CDC was involved, the Border Patrol, the LA County Public Health, and they said, because if one of them comes in with something, they all come in with something. And so we need to make sure, we're watching for rabies, but we're watching for other communicable diseases, stuff that we don't want here. So I went down there at 5:00 in the morning, and I mean, legitimately, it was a pallet of crates of beagles. And, it just, if you've ever been around a beagle who has been at a lab, it's sad. I mean, they're so compliant, they're so grateful too. And so I really went and examined everybody pretty quickly so we could get them cleared. They all had homes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And it was just amazing to see them in their new environment. And yeah.
That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jeanine Au. It's been an incredible pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for sharing your story with us. That's it for today. I'm Christie Long, and I'm listening.